Welcome to the Grind to Greatness podcast, where we dive deep into the world of relentless determination, hard work, and unwavering dedication to help you unlock your full potential. We're your hosts, Jonathan and Joseph, and your mentors along this journey to greatness. Each week, we'll bring you inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical tips where we've turned our dreams into reality through sheer grit and resilience. Whether you're looking to excel in your career, improve your health and well-being, or simply level up in life, this podcast is your go-to source for strategies, motivation, and the mindset needed to achieve personal excellence.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Grind to Greatness. And today's podcast is sponsored by Elite Mind Athletes, the #1 online coaching program for high school and college athletes, helping them build the discipline required to perform at the highest level. We built a user-friendly app that tracks their productivity where it counts the most, and that's learning how to clock in when everyone else clocks out. We structure and organize our athletes' day to execute 10 high-performing habits that are focused around mindset, discipline, nutrition, and performance, called the Elite Grind System. If you want to become a champion, then you have to start acting like a champion and do what champions do. We give each athlete the tools and resources to be successful, along with our elite coaching guidance to prep them to handle the extreme standards of what it takes to operate at the highest level. Visit elitemindathlete.com and learn how to chase greatness. Mr. Joseph, what's going on, brother?
Not a lot, man. Just trying to survive the winter here in Texas.
Yeah, man, in the garage, it's like, what, 28 degrees in here?
No, I'm trying to suck it up because I'm leaving to Oregon in like a week. And it's gonna be cold and rainy. But yeah.
It's only 49 in here. It's not too shabby, but it's not bad. I'm naturally just a cold dude. I wear all the layers, even when it's like 50 or 60, because I just like to feel comfortable. I don't like to feel an ounce of cold.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm a sissy, a wuss when it comes to that.
We know that.
We all know that, yeah. I make up for it in other areas, though. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. You'll soon find out, Joseph.
What are we talking about today?
We are going to be talking about the big, ugly ego.
You got a big ego.
Big ego. You got a big head. No, I don't know the song.
You know the song? Big Ego? I forget who sings it.
You don't even know the song.
I mean, it's a female singing, and she's talking about an ego, but she's actually like, it's an inappropriate song. It's talking about a big something else.
This is an inappropriate podcast.
Yeah, but save it for another time.
Yeah, so today I just want to, get your perspective on ego. And, I think the norm of today's society is if you have an ego, you're bad. It just has a negative connotation behind it and a bad reputation. And, I want to get your opinion on, what do you think about having an ego? Is it bad? Is it good? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm a very middle ground person. I don't sway one way or another on many things. So I'm in the middle. If you can use your ego as a positive for either yourself and your family or for others, I'm all about it. But if you are using your ego to talk down to other people, push people away, make people feel like they're not good enough, then that's a very completely different thing. So for me, again, if you're going to use it as a tool to do good in the world, I'm all about it. If you're using it as a tool because you're a tool, then your ego can go jump off a fucking cliff. And I'm going to be the first person to humiliate you, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, my perspective is a little bit different. I'm leaning towards the right. I believe you have to have a massive fucking ego to be able to achieve massive fucking dreams. And I think that most people might disagree. It's only because they don't even understand the definition of ego. I think they're getting it confused with arrogance.
Yeah.
Then it's a problem.
Yeah.
So I have a definition that, I just feel like if we gave ego an opportunity and a chance to be able to hear him out or her, I feel like we'll feel a lot better about ego. So let's read the definition.
You got it?
It says, I got it, yeah.
Fuck.
A person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. That's it.
Okay.
Nothing bad about it.
Yeah.
It's nothing. And so, people, I want to say mediocre people, because majority of the population believes that ego is bad. So if majority of the population means average, all right, it's not saying anybody's It's not negative. It's just what average people are thinking. And so they like to jump ship and like, if somebody says they like ego or lean toward ego, like, oh, I think it's like the cool thing to say or make them feel better saying, you know, I'm more humble and, you know, I lean towards humility as if they're opposing things. And once again, I just think they just misunderstand what these phrases are. Right. So real quick, before I even tell you what humility is, what do you think about people saying, and it's over commonly heard, where it's like the nice thing to say, or what word am I looking for? It's going to make you feel better if you say that you're humble versus ego.
Oh, I was going to take this in a different direction. So internally, speaking about yourself, if you, it's the positive and negative connotations with the word, and words are becoming more and more misconstrued here in 2023. The masculinity, no one can be masculine or fucking you're the devil. So, you know, that's like, that has like, the word masculinity within itself is not negative. The word ego within itself is not negative. The word humble is always like this positive connotation.
There's nothing negative about it.
And so there's just these words that can go either direction, and oftentimes they go the wrong way, which is ego. But humble is just, it's like a tried and true word that you can say always and forever, and people are gonna like almost give you respect. And so then that's, I think, how we talk to ourselves. So if you're talking about like, you know, why ego, why humble, a lot of people are like, well, I'm humble, and it kind of gives you this sense of like more gratitude, like I'm the bigger person because I told you that I was humble. But a true person who's humble will never tell you that they're humble. Like people who are truly these things won't say it about themselves.
Absolutely.
Like people will say it about them. But it's like, if you have to tell everyone you're the boss, you're not the boss. You know what I mean? Like if you have to go around fucking flaunting your rank, like you're not the boss. Like people, like leadership is a role. It's a personality. It's people naturally look up to you and gravitate to you. Like if you have to walk around and be like, oh, I'm the leader. Like you're probably not.
Absolutely.
You know?
So let's go ahead and define, because I just feel like, you know, people just don't know the definitions, right? And I want to make it very clear. We think ego, we think negative, we think humility, we think positive. And so they can actually go in both directions. They both can be positive and negative in how you want to use them. And you can use that information to push you towards your goals. So humility is actually, after reading the definition, I don't want humility. But let's go ahead. It's a modest or low viewpoint of one's self-importance.
I'm sorry, it's a modest?
It's a modest or low view of one's self-importance. So yeah, it's a low view of yourself.
I didn't even know that.
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
So I think that's what I'm saying. That's why you need to understand the definition of how to reframe it, because here's why. I had big confidence and arrogance before Camp Gladiator. All right, this is my natural personality. I had a big head. I was conceited. I had this big arrogance about myself. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to beat you. Not even realizing if I'm going to beat you or not. It was just a sense of arrogance. All right, there was no evidence based that I wasn't actually going to beat you. And I was naturally just competitive. Well, when you start self-developing, you start getting into humility. You start hearing this word, and you start getting into leadership. I got into leadership, and now this word is becoming even more of a thing. And you start to understand one thing: people have to like you in leadership. All right, that's like step one. The people have to like you, and people don't like egotistical, loud people, right? And that's what I was. And so I was like, oh, I got to learn to be more humble. And I became so humble that it paralyzed me. I became so not outspoken, so sat there, so was like unsure of myself now. And like, why am I to speak when I'm not the expert? When I was the expert. But it paralyzed me to the point where I no longer had a voice. As if I had before. John before would always express his opinion, was always be the first in charge, wanted to do other things. But because I wanted to feel like I was a great leader, it pushed me to being towards humble, because it made me feel as a higher ground. But it actually paralyzed me, because I wasn't actually getting anything done, and I felt anxiety and I felt pressure because now I was always thinking, if I'm a phony, who am I to say these things? Because I was so humble, my own self importance was so low. But even though I was so educating myself and continuing the growth process, I just feel like every other leader just knew more than me. I should just shut up and listen.
Yeah. That's honestly why I like to grind in quiet. I'm not a big, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We talked about it in an earlier podcast. I just kind of go with the flow, and then I try to do my best while I do it. And then I look up and everyone's like, oh my gosh, look what you did. And I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't even know that. And it's funny, social media drives so much of what we think success looks like, right? Just take, two people post a picture together and they're like, oh, our relationship is so amazing. And so we just assume that their relationship is amazing, but deep down, he beats her, she beats him, they yell, they fight, they hate each other, right? Yeah. Social media is this false image of almost everything. Very, very few people are authentic. And I went to dinner the other night with someone who wanted to be a coach in the future, and she was asking me all these questions about my business. And so I tell her, and she was just blown away at how successful I've been, how many coaches work for me, how much money I make, how long I've been in the game, my education, yada yada yada. She was like, I had no idea, because social media, that's not who I am on social media. I'm not this big, look how much money I make all the time, look how successful I am all the time. I pretty much just talk shit on social media. And it comes from a place of joy. It doesn't come from a place of, I know more than you, so I'm going to talk down on you. And so I think that's another tough thing, is to avoid being too humble, which I now don't like that word, or being too egotistical. I'm just quiet about it. It's kind of like, you've never done this because you've been in a relationship forever, but it's like when you create a dating profile, they're like, tell me about yourself, and everyone's like, oh, it's really hard to talk about myself, and so we either do it and people are like, oh, you're cocky and you're arrogant, or you do it and like, oh, you're super humble, and you be more positive about yourself. You can almost never win with the public. And so that's why I just don't do it, period.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, but I'm glad that we can educate ourselves, right? Because
that's crazy.
Now we need to understand what arrogance means. Right? Because I think this is where the whole confusion begins. So let's actually look up what arrogant means.
What does it mean?
Arrogance, the quality of being unpleasantly proud and behaving as if you are more important than others.
There it is.
That's arrogance. That's confusing ego with arrogance. So just because I have a high self-belief of myself doesn't make me arrogant.
Right.
I think you need to understand that. And honestly, because I have a high self-belief of myself, I do have a big ego, but I'm also massively fucking have humility, because you know what? I'm a fucking student. And that is the most humble humility thing to do every single day, is knowing you don't know enough and to continue to learn. I'm open to learning, makes me humble every single day.
And I had a buddy in high school who I used to hate to hear the words come out of his mouth, but his famous words were always, I know, no matter who told him, coach, teacher, principal, parents. I've heard him say, I know, to literally everybody. And he was being arrogant.
That's arrogant.
Right. And
it's not egotistical.
I'm like, dude, chill out.
And
we were 16, 17. And it used to fucking grind my gears. I'm the type of person, even if I'm sitting in front of you and you're telling me something I already know, I will literally sit there and let you have your moment. I'm like, hell yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh, okay. I will, that's the type of person I am, because I understand there's a sense of fulfillment people get through educating others or through giving people advice. And the other person being very reciprocal of it or accepting of it. So either we have this great conversation going back and forth, or I'm just literally a student in your world. If I just sat here and was like, man, Jonathan, teach me something.
Absolutely.
And I was very interactive with you, you would feel some sort of fulfillment.
Because you would think, anytime that you think you're serving somebody, it feels amazing. It feels amazing.
And so even if I already know what you're telling me, I will literally act like I don't know. And that's just the type of person I am. And I think in relationships, it happens a lot where it's like, I know more than you, you know more than me, which is why I always tell people like spouses don't coach each other. Like if you're a husband and a wife or husband, wife, whoever, like go get help outside of your relationship.
Yeah.
Don't try to be your spouse's nutrition coach. Don't try to be your spouse's personal trainer.
Tough.
Don't try to like
Jesus.
get out of the relationship because people don't like to be told what to do or to be vulnerable in front of their person. Like it now creates this, it's not really a dichotomy anymore. It's like I'm on top, you're on bottom, not figuratively. But it's like, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And it's not good for relationships.
But you can actually work a relationship to be that way. Like that's a goal, right? Is to have some clear communication. Like I told you, I treat my relationship like a business. Right. Well, we literally have to have those hard conversations like, babe, I know I didn't do my best this month. How can I get better? Nobody wants to ask that question.
Yeah.
And babe, I really need you to be honest with me because I really do want to serve you and help you in any way possible. And I do need to know what I'm not doing better in, because business, you always have to reevaluate. Well, this didn't work. It's time to repivot, reshift.
And that's where you come to the table being being humble and having humility and saying, I know I didn't do my best. Like I know I'm subpar. Help me.
Humility is knowing that you don't know everything and being open to learn. And that's what we do every single day.
Yeah.
But I do also have a big ego, and there's a reason why I have a big ego. And let me explain why. Is because you almost have to have a big ego. Every elite person, every hyper successful person has to believe that they're the best. They've all mentioned it. You have to believe that you're the best, because whether you believe you are or you aren't is true. They're both true.
Yeah.
And if I can sit here and I say, Joseph, we're competing at something, and I'm like, I know Joseph's better than me, I've already lost.
Right.
I have to really believe that I have an opportunity to beat Joseph. Therefore, I'm going to put all the work in there, because if I have a slight chance that I'm not going to beat Joseph, then I'm already playing as if I'm going to just try to win.
Yeah.
No, I need to play to win.
Yeah.
Right.
And we talked about that on Best Coaches, where I was like, hey, I was interviewing you guys and I was like, hey, why would I sign up with you as a coach versus this other person over here? And so that was me trying to trigger and pull out your ego. Tell me how great of a coach you are. Tell me why you are the best, right? And so it isn't like everyone used to always be like, man, how are you so successful? I'm like, because even if Michael Jordan sat across from me, I would train the fuck out of him.
Yeah.
Like I would rise to the level that I needed to rise to make him better. I would pull that out of myself because I already feel that way. I already feel like I'm the best, and I'm the best because I'm client centered, right? Yeah. So I'm more focused on my client more so than my own education or my own, what am I going to get out of this?
I think people need to understand that you have to be selfish to be able to impact at a high level.
Yeah.
Like you have to be so self-centered to be able to grow as much as you need to create the impact to others that matches that.
Yeah.
And once again, being self-centered or thinking about yourself is once again negative.
Yeah.
Right? It's this thing. And I think once again, if you think the same as everyone else, there's probably a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because everyone else moves at an average rate, thinks the exactly the same, does the exactly the same, get boxed in doing exactly the same. And therefore, if you think just like everyone else, you know you have a fucking problem.
Right.
Right? Now, if you go against the grain, now you're becoming humble. Now you're becoming humility, have some humility to understand, well, wait a minute. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And even when we're on this podcast and we're talking about our own beliefs and ideas, I'm not saying I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is what worked for me,
right,
and this is what worked for you. And hopefully you can come to the conclusion of, let's try one of these and let's see what happens.
Yeah. And because again, a lot of times people won't try anything because they don't know what direction to go. And so it's like, man, even if you choose the wrong direction, go 1,000,000 miles an hour in that direction and you will learn, was it right or was it wrong?
Yeah.
And which is, being a student forever is so fun because it like truly brings out like this, it's weird, it like brings out this extra energy in me where it just like, again, it just like turns my brain on. And like my brain, and we've talked about it before, wake up every morning, go to the gym, I'm listening to some sort of like motivation compilation on the way to the gym, like that. I need that. I need education. I need to listen and learn, or our brain will shut down.
Yeah.
Like it will literally become hard and calloused, and in a bad way. And so, but I was listening to a podcast earlier, and it's like your brain is so permeable, it's so adaptable. It's up until you're 60 or 70 years old, you can still learn, right? And it's like it used to be like, oh well, if you're going to teach a kid, or if you're going to teach someone another language, you got to do it at a young age. And it's like, well, now we're learning, like, no, you can do it at any age. You know, so if you want to become bilingual, you can do it at any age. It might take you longer and more hours, but the brain is still adaptable and still can do it.
Yes, it can still do it, but you have to re-engineer your whole thought process that you've been programmed. You have been programmed to think like everyone else. You have been programmed to think that you don't have time. You have been programmed to think that once you get into career, there's no escape from that career. You have been programmed to not take those risks because they're risky. You know what's risky? Not taking the risk. You have been programmed to play it safe. You've been programmed to believe that there's stability and there's balance. You've been programmed to believe it because it sounds good. But you're hurting every single day. Like, I may be struggling, but I'm choosing to struggle because I'm living towards my dreams and my passions, and you'll never be able to replace that. 100%. You can go to work every single day and hate your fucking life and hate everything about it. That's fucking terrible. I would rather love what I do, make a whole lot of not a lot of money, but love what I do and wake up with what I do. You can't match that energy, and I'm grateful that I have found my purpose, but I would never have found my purpose if I wasn't bold enough and had the courage to take the risk to even go find out what that was.
You know what's funny about purpose and passion? I think it changes. It changes. It
evolves.
If you ask me, like, don't ask me because I don't know the answer. But if you ask me right now, like, what is your purpose in life? I don't know the answer. Because if you would have asked me a couple years ago, I'd be like, oh, I want to be if you would have asked me, I'll go take you back to 2015. If you'd have asked me in 2015, I would have said, I want to be a badass personal trainer. I want to just be a personal trainer. And then you asked me 3 years ago, I would have said, I want to be a badass nutrition coach. You asked me today, I'm like, I just want to be a badass business owner. And I want my business to do whatever the business is going to do. I honestly think if you put a business in front of me and said, hey, optimize this business, even if it was in fucking fast food, I would still get pleasure out of that. Just because, like, I love fixing problems.
Well, then again, once again, you want to think out of the ordinary. Most people think that there's just one passion, there's just one thing that's for you, and it's not. You're not going to find out, even know what it is. Until you start taking that risk to go figure out what that actually is. But you won't take that risk to go figure out what that actually is because you're scared of the unknown. But that's where all the magic is. That's where the bliss is. That's where your life and your future is. But you won't get out of that box. And then once you get there, you realize in the midst of that, oh, that wasn't my purpose. Maybe it's over here. It's the constant unknown that you have to go chase. Because if you asked me 10 years ago, I wanted to be a millionaire. Like that, all I cared about was money. I just wanted to be a millionaire. Then I started to feel what impact was. Oh, I want to impact. Oh, then I want to become this nutrition coach. And then I was like, oh man, I want to be this business. And then I was like, you know what? In the process of learning how to do all this, I learned how to achieve goals. I learned how to take the risk. I learned how to have the courage, and I learned how to mentally build discipline and mental toughness to actually see progress when it doesn't look like there was any progress, and keep going regardless. And that's when my pleasure started. Like, my pleasure is the process. It's so weird.
And you have to have this balance between humility and ego to make that happen.
You have to learn, because if I didn't have humility, I wouldn't be able to learn. And if I didn't learn to be an entrepreneur, you're out of the game. If you're not willing to learn every single day as an entrepreneur or an elite athlete or business, that's part of the game, is the learning process. And you have to continuously learn, because that's the information to keep moving forward. And that's my game. Like, honestly, when I'm done creating what I'm creating, I'm going to the next business. And I'm going to the next business. And because the dream isn't the destination for me. I thought it was. I thought it was going to be the house I was going to have a house on each side of the continent. East side, boom. I was going to be all over the place, bro, because I wanted to just, man, the views and the peace and the harmony. And you know what? Ultimately, it wasn't all that. What I found out was that's what got me going. But what's keeping me going is the hunt. It's the journey, the struggle, and the win. The journey, the struggle, the win. The journey, the struggle, the win. And then when I get to it, you'll realize that the top of that mountain is the bottom of the next, man. And that's what I live for.
Yeah, it's funny because I talked to my priest about this before, and when I was stepping away from Camp Gladiator, I was like, man, I'm gonna be so relaxed. I'm gonna have all this time off. And my priest was like, no, you're not. He's like, you don't function that way.
Nobody wants that.
He's like, you don't want peace at all. He's like, you're gonna go find something else, and you're gonna go fucking do something else, right? And then I was like, okay. Well, I was like, whatever. I didn't even know what was gonna come. Then the whole nutrition director thing came about, so I did that. And then a year goes by, and I'm like, I'm bored. So I create Unconquerable.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm bored. So then I create Best Coaches. And I'm like, I'm bored. And so it's funny because it's like, I could have a really peaceful, easy life if I wanted it. But
You would die soon, bro.
yeah, I know. It's not fun. I don't understand, like, being uncomfortable is fun for me, and learning new things is fun, but I would never throw myself into the fire. I think, like, I was listening to one of our podcasts, one of the early episodes, and I said, like, just throw me in the fire. Just throw me in there and I'll figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what it is, I'll figure it out. And so many people are scared of that, but it's my ego that gives me that mentality of, I'll figure it out. But it's also my humility that says, wait, I got to be ready to learn. And you're going to throw me into an industry that I don't know anything about. I'm going to have to just take a step back and learn.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I did when I stepped up from just being a personal trainer to a fitness manager. When I walked into this club and one fitness manager was on the way out, I was on the way in, but the team of trainers stayed the same. And I was like, look, I'm not here to change what y'all are doing. Like, I'm not going to come in here, that new boss, and just, it's my way or the highway, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm here to just learn. Like, what have y'all been doing? And honestly, and we talked about it before, but we broke every record at that club for 6 months straight on all things regarding fitness. And all I did was lead by example. I didn't ask the coaches to do anything else. I didn't change a thing. I just showed them through doing how you should be operating a business. I'm making phone calls. I'm at the front desk. I'm training. I'm cleaning. I'm doing all these things. And they just followed my lead, and we fucking crushed it.
That's the only way to do it. So leading by example isn't the way. It's the only way.
Oh, I was like, what? That's what you just
Yeah.
said. It's the
only way.
Yeah. And like, people don't we talked about this before. Push your own car.
Yeah.
Right? That was the analogy you used. Like, stop asking for help. Stop asking other people to push your car for you. Get out, push your car, and then people will join you because they're watching you do the work.
Yeah.
And it's motivating. It's very like, oh, that person's doing it. Oh, I can do it too. Right? It's like the 5-minute mile. Everyone was, can't break a 5-minute mile, can't break a 5-minute mile. Till one person did it. Since that one person did it, I forget the guy's name, so forgive me.
Yeah.
Like, how many people have broken that 5-minute mile barrier? And
It became the new norm.
It became the new norm.
Yeah.
It's like, now if you can't break a 5-minute mile barrier, you're fucking slow, which is crazy. So it just takes one person to lead by example, to open up, like, you can't coach someone to run a 5-minute mile if you've never run a 5-minute, if the 5-minute mile has never been broken before, right? Getting an athlete to believe that they can break a 5-minute mile when it's never been done, and two, the coach has never done it, I think would be very hard.
They needed a what? To do it.
They need a leader.
They needed a big ego to fucking do it. But they had to have belief.
Yeah.
Belief. They had to have belief that they were going to do this to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, and it just took one person who believed in themselves.
Yeah.
I went Google it. I feel like we're doing this guy a disservice.
Yeah, you might be, because he made history. 4-minute mile.
Is it 4 minute?
Yeah, it's 4-minute, bro. I run a 5-minute mile.
Roger Bannister.
There it is.
Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile barrier, right, in 1954. So how many people have done the 4-minute mile? The first one was Roger Bannister at 25 years old, and since then, it's been broken by 1,755 athletes. It is now the standard. That's so crazy.
It was so unbelievable that doctors thought that if you were to try to break this record, your heart would explode. That was the belief that if you're doing this, it's suicide.
Yeah. That's so crazy.
And one guy said, no.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this.
Man, it's insane.
It's big ego. You have to have an insane big ego to be able to attempt this. I think Michael B. Jordan even said this. You have to have so much blind faith in yourself to be able to make this happen.
Yeah. I want to know like what motivated Roger Bannister to do it. That's, you know,
They might have a movie about this or a documentary about it. That'd be fucking awesome to watch it.
It's just like, if you're going to attempt something that no one has ever done before, and not even that no one's ever attempted, people are telling you don't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's crazy, and you still go do it.
That's when you do it. Like, you have to adopt that mindset. I just finished watching Arnold's documentary, Sylvester Stallone's documentary. I've been all over documentaries lately because it's learning, right? It's studying. Something I'm obsessed with is studying the greats, right? Trying to connect the dots. And every single time somebody said no, that it wouldn't work, they thought it would work.
Yeah.
Great. If you said no, that means yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that the people need to understand that. Like, you have to be insane when it comes to the normal society. That if they think it's insane, you might be onto something. Like, that really needs to make sense. If majority of the people around you saying that wouldn't work, that's how you know, like, you're onto something.
Yeah.
And you should go pursue that thing.
Yeah. And I do this with like my clients where I'll say, tell me your long-term goal. If you could paint me the perfect image of yourself, and I was going to throw it on a billboard, and you just got to brag about that person on the billboard, what would you want that person to be, right?
Yeah.
They'll go through these long-term goals with me, and then some of them will ask, is that realistic? I'm like, who am I to tell you if it's realistic or not?
Yeah.
I'm just here to help you achieve that goal.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be that thing? That's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to tell you yes or no, or that's impossible, or your timeline's a little fucked up. I'm here to just be like, cool, let's crush it. And I'm going to give you all the tools, all the resources for you to go do the thing.
See, I wouldn't have so much belief in myself if I didn't study, discuss with people, and also see the correlation that they had to have so much belief in themselves. Yeah. Because everything that I've attempted, it shouldn't make sense. For me to create a real estate investment company, me not knowing what a liability even was, me not knowing what a liability was, or an asset, like, that was my starting point.
Yeah.
I had no idea I had to Google what the fuck that was. But here I am thinking, I'm going to start a real estate investment company.
Yeah.
Like, from no degrees, I'm the slowest learner, no idea about money, no idea about real estate, no idea about investing. So there's all these obstacles, but I had to have full belief that I could do it.
Yeah.
But
that's your ego.
Well, that's my ego. But also what comes with that is evidence of me doing other hard shit. And I think we spoke about that, right? Yeah. Me doing bodybuilding, right? That's a small percentage of people. Me building a successful CG career. Entrepreneurship, well, half entrepreneurship, did it, right? So all of that was evidence of, man, if I can just keep doing the process of learning every single day and keep chipping without worrying about the result, and just keep chipping away, knowing that I'm doing something that's going to eventually get me to where I'm trying to get to, I'm cool sacrificing 10 years eating shit, knowing that it's going to bump me up by 20 years. I had to agree to that and mentally accept that, but also believe it. Because if I didn't believe it, then it would just be me sacrificing 10 years, not even knowing if I'm going to get anything back. No, I had to psych my brain, saying if I do sacrifice this 10 years, I'm getting 20 years back. Yeah.
It's funny. What's the quote goes, like, I forget the coach who says it, but it's like, the ending of the quote is, winners are always worried about, are they doing enough? Right? And so, and I found myself thinking about this in the shower the other day.
I gotta pull it up. I know who said it.
It's that coach, and he's talking in front of a group of football players.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
And he's a white dude.
Yeah.
And
he has a good voice.
He does. But I was thinking about it the other day, and I was going through the list of stuff that I do. So I'm gonna give you the list that I do, right, of everything that I'm involved with, and then at the end of it, I want you to still realize that I still feel like I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
So Facts Over Fads is my baby. Facts Over Fads currently right now has about 300 active clients. I have one coach who's full-time. I have a personal assistant, and I now just added my 5th kind of independent contractor coach. So now there's 8 of us in total. And outside of Facts Over Fads, I have Unconquerable, and I have an obligation to post and mentor and motivate people in there daily. Outside of Unconquerable, I have a coach's business who I just brought on, I told you about, to build her business. She's in California. I have to build her business. Outside of that, I have Best Coaches. There's 21 people involved with Best Coaches. So I have to bring in new education, new ideas, new business things, new motivational techniques to keep coaches growing in the right direction. Outside of Best Coaches, I have the Fit Chat podcast with Tyler and Cody.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we have the Grind to Greatness podcast. Outside of that, I have my own YouTube channel that I need to keep pumping content onto. Outside of that, I am the head of the setup team at my church. So I'm in charge of a 10-man team that each week someone's on the schedule to set up church and make sure everything is good to go there. And so is that everything? I'm juggling all of that. And I'm just sitting here like, man, I'm missing something. What am I not doing? Did you get the quote?
No. Well, I got something of the quote, but I think hearing all that, I think people need to understand one thing. Because I've studied and I'm obsessed with super hyper successful people. Like I said, I like to connect the dots. Every single one of them have that same feeling on their chest to this day, and they're multi millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah.
And they still wake up feeling, am I doing enough?
Yeah.
And I think you need to understand that when you feel that way, that's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you pushing. That's what keeps you getting the best out of yourself. Because if you feel like you're good enough, guess what, motherfucker? You're done.
Yeah.
You're content.
Yeah.
Your game is now over.
In the military, we say complacency kills.
Yeah.
So if you're complacent, if you're like, yep, I'm good enough. This is what, I don't know, this is my max. You're done.
Well, you know what? Once again, normal people would not want to feel this way. Why would I want to feel every single day like I'm not good enough? That's going to be their fight back of saying, that's why I don't want to do that path. I don't want to feel miserable like this fucking dude. It's not that we feel miserable. It's that I know that feeling this way is going to make me work harder, impact bigger, at a higher scale, which is my purpose and which is my goal.
Yeah. It just drives both ego and humility simultaneously I even think equal portions. It's like, I'm not doing enough. What else can I go do? I need to get better. I need to never be content with what I'm doing right now. To recognize that you can never be content, like what you're doing right now is not good enough, is humility. Hey, I could be doing better.
Yeah.
I'm not doing enough. That's humility. But also respecting what you've accomplished and knowing you can go accomplish more, that's ego.
That's hard for me to do, is be grateful for actually what I'm actually doing.
Yeah. The quote is from, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Louis Caralla, and it says...
This is the coach.
This is the coach. And he says, lazy people do a little bit of work and they think they should be winning. Winners work as hard as possible and they still worry about if they're being lazy.
Yeah.
And that's what, it's like, I always bring up my dating life, but dating is so funny because girls, people, they say, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And I'm like, you want the long end? You want the long story or the short story? Like, you want the short? I'm a coach. Like, oh, I know it's kind of a boring answer. Like, give me the long answer. I tell them the long answer. Like, they're like, what the fuck? They're like, how do you have time to date? And I'm like, I have time. I can make time. I can, like, there's still more that I can do.
When you have control, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, like it's just wild to be like, man, am I doing enough? Looking back on everything I've accomplished, and people are very, luckily, to my face, they're pretty respectful. Oh, you're doing awesome. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
I don't think you're doing great.
Thank you. I need that. Tone me down. But in my own head, I just told someone the other day, like, you don't want to be in my head. Like Elon Musk said it the other day. He was like, most people think they would want my life, but they don't want my life. Like, you can never handle it, like the pressure.
Yeah.
And just that balance of, I've come so far, but I'm nowhere near where I want to go. I'm nowhere near stopping. I'm nowhere near quitting. Whenever I do quit, I don't know. I don't know what would make me stop. What would make you stop?
Nothing. Work is what my purpose is and what gives me joy. My number one is my work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
have you, personal question, but does your wife know that your work is your first?
Yeah. So we had this discussion, and I was scared to have this discussion because I like to figure out and go deep on what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling this way. And so, I was watching, I was listening to a book. See, this is why you should be continuously learning and reading, is because it opens up just new perspectives and new frames for you to think, right? And Will Smith's biography. Great book. He's a great storyteller. But him and his wife were going to therapy, and they had to do a challenge or a test.
Obviously that therapy didn't work, but
anyways, at least they tried, right? And on this test, they had to get a notepad, and they both had to write their most important top 4 things in their life, right? In order. And Will Smith put his work, he put Jada, and then he put his family, his kids. All right, that was work, Jada, kids. And then she put kids, Will, work.
So complete opposite.
Complete opposite. And she was getting flustered and like pissed off that, how come the kids or Faith or, wasn't, I think Faith was also in there. I just forget the order. But how come that wasn't number 1? And so the therapist had to like, whoa. If Will Smith was to remove his work from number 1 and put you number 1, he wouldn't be any good to any of y'all, because you took his number 1 away from him. Now you're going to be left with some half Will trying to pretend you're number 1, and you're not going to get the best of Will.
Right.
And so I started looking at my life. I'm like, what brings me the most joy? And then I also heard another super successful person. I forgot who this one was, but he says, nobody's going to like this dude. Grant Cardone. He talks about this literally, and then so I started getting all this information, and I started putting it together. And Grant Cardone's like, "Yeah, dude." When people ask me, what my number 1 is, and I say my work, and people are like, "Not your wife?" He's like, "Hell no, not my wife. Are you serious? My wife?" He's like, and then he's like, "Let me reframe it for you." He's like, "If I put my wife at number 1, that means she's my everything. That means if she was to die tomorrow, I am done."
Yeah.
Right? I have no more purpose. If I was put on here for my wife, I have nothing else to live for.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, "No, dude." He's like, "My work is my number 1. And her number 1 should be her, whatever drives her, makes her feel good. If it's me, it's me. But if she was to die tomorrow, I still have to carry on and serve my purpose. I don't stop, right? Yeah. And I can't pretend and fake, because it makes me feel a higher ground. It makes me sound or look better in front of my friends that, I love my wife is my number 1. Yeah. Right? Really?
Yeah.
Right? Really? And so you just got to sit down and really ask her. And I told my wife that, and then she's all like, "No, that makes sense." She's like, "If I was to actually really take work away from you, you'd be a piece of shit."
Yeah.
And I was all like, "I would."
And so I was engaged, and my ex-fiance would always get mad because work came first. So I played the role a little bit. I said, "Okay, cool. I'll put you first. I'll start walking away from work when you want me to walk away from work, and I'll start doing this." All we did was fight. Because when I walked away from work at a time where I didn't want to walk away to go do whatever you wanted to do.
Now you're fucking grumpy and mad.
I was grumpy and mad. I wasn't even a joy to be around. So it was a double-edged sword. It was like, well, if I work more, you're going to fight me. And if I stop working to hang out with you, we're still going to fight. Yeah. So it was like, there was no winning. And I bring it back to like, she also didn't, people say like, when people are like, "Oh, my spouse is my number 1," I think it's just because they don't have anything going on. Yeah. Or they have
and most people don't.
Right.
They haven't found it. They don't have that passion, that spark or whatever. And
it's just clock in, clock out, and you go through the mundane routine of life, and you wake up to pay bills essentially, and you don't really enjoy anything. So it's like, yeah, sure, my spouse is my number 1. And I'm like, yeah, but if you really found something that you were really passionate about, and it fed your soul, which made you a better spouse, then your answer should change.
See, that's, once again, if you're saying the same shit everyone's saying, you're probably missing the boat, right? And that's probably why you feel stuck. And that's probably why you feel like you're not moving around in life. And that's probably why you have low self-esteem. You have low confidence. You aren't the man that your wife wants you to be, or vice versa.
Right.
Right? And so I had to sit down with my wife and have that conversation. It was a tough conversation. I did. And my work is my number 1. And I had to tell her too, that God didn't put here on me to serve specifically you, right? He's actually gave me the vision to serve in masses of other people, to motivate, encourage, inspire the world to chase their dreams, and actually give them strategies to actually do this. And I told her that you were put on here for something too, babe. and I want you to go, and I want you to go find it. And you know what? I think we're supposed to come together so that way we can both go and serve and find what that purpose is.
Right.
I don't want me to be your only thing, because if I was to fucking die tomorrow, that would fucking suck for you.
Yeah.
Right?
And if her only focus is you, she's gonna nitpick the shit out of you because you're not doing like everything she wants to do.
And we had to have those conversations, and then we had to come to an agreement, and then we actually spoke about it publicly because it's the conversation. Like I said, most people say, yeah, my spouse is my number one. I actually wanted to have that conversation. Like, no, Daisy's not my number one. And everyone fucking broke their necks like, and then looked at Daisy like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah. But we didn't expect them to understand.
Yeah. And I think it also takes a strong spouse to recognize it, be okay with it, and understand it, and support it.
It's a growth. You have to grow on this journey together.
Yeah.
Right. And if this person's not on that growth journey, having that conversation, we'd probably broken up.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's where my relationship failed. Was she thought that I should be her number one, and I was like, nope, my work is my number one. And a lot of it stems from probably childhood. Like her dad, is an entrepreneur, is a business owner, works his life away, but is like an amazing provider, is an amazing husband. Would like treats her mom like amazingly, but he's not around that much. But when he is around, he's like amazing. And so I think it stems from her dad always being gone.
Yeah.
And, she's like, well, I never really got much of my dad because when he was home, he would just pay attention to my mom or whatever the case may be. And it was like, when she saw that in me, she's like, well, shit, well, now you're always gone. You're not paying me any attention. It was just like, who's going to pay me attention?
Well, it's difficult because if most people see work as tiring, then why would I want my spouse to go do work?
Right.
See, right now, it's Sunday evening. Family time. But I'm here in the garage sitting in the cold with some fucking other dude trying to impact and serve, and my wife is in there, and she knows that when I go in there, I'm not going to be exhausted and tired.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm doing my purpose, I'm doing my work, and when you find what you're doing, it energizes you. It doesn't suck life. I'm not going to go in there and be like, oh damn, man, I'm tired. Fuck, that was a long day. No, babe, I'm gonna go fucking talk her ear off because we had some amazing conversation, and she's gonna be so open to listening because it's new information, and new information drives that behavior to want to learn, to continue to have that passion, to have things to talk about, to have something new, rather than it was another day, it was another bad day, it was another exhausted day. You wouldn't believe all the fires I had to put out today. The same bullshit. I don't want to bring that negativity into my wife's life.
Yeah. And we talked about it on Best Coaches last week, where I was like, man, unfortunately, passion doesn't pay bills, but passion should allow you to be the best of the best possible. It should create this forever student mentality if you're truly passionate about it. It's like I do client consultations all day long, and so imagine if my very first client of the day was a negative Nancy and going through a divorce or having health complications or whatever, and that just like beat me down, and then the rest of my day I just carried that negative energy into every single person. Like I would not be successful. I literally was like, I can hang up the phone with one client who's super negative, pick up the phone and call the very next one, act like nothing fucking happened.
Because you're serving. You serve somebody.
Yeah, it's like cool. Like at the end of every bitch session, we're gonna come out with some positives.
Yeah.
And we're gonna come up with some solutions. And we're gonna come up with some plans to go do whatever we need to do to make this bitch session not happen again.
Yeah.
Right? And that's positive for me. I love that. So I just like reset and then go to the next one. Reset, go to the next one. Reset, go to the next one. I gotta be open-minded to it. So to your point of like, but that's what I love to do. So, going back to the dating world, like, oh, you're on calls all day? Like you probably don't want to talk. And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Like I don't give I can fucking talk all day.
Because their mind frame has been programmed to be like, he works all day.
Yeah,
he's gonna be tired. He's exhausted. Now, if anybody listening, you're probably in the growth mindset, but you really have to understand this one thing, and it's actually science. Just like the number one reason for divorce is money, right? I think it's money, and then sex or some shit like that. But the number one reason why you're not successful is because of your spouse.
Yeah.
Because they need to understand that the reason why you're not successful is because of your spouse. Because here's the deal: if they're not on the boat of this journey of growth and achievements and aspiring to be their personal best every single day, if they're not on that, they're on your boat and they're rowing in the wrong direction.
Yep.
And so when you're trying to row and achieve and get to that next level, you have somebody else inadvertently rowing in the wrong direction. Therefore, you're going to be spinning in circles.
Yep.
So it is massively important, which is why you haven't found somebody. It's massively important that if you're on that growth to chasing your dreams, goals, and aspirations, your battle buddy, your spouse, has to be on that same mission with you, or they're pushing you in the wrong direction and you're gonna be spinning in circles, and that's gonna be that variable that you're gonna have to fucking fix.
Yeah.
Right? It's the obstacle. You have an obstacle. What do you do when you hit the obstacle? You have to make a new game plan. So you have to have that conversation.
I literally made a post and it said, you are a product of your 5 closest friends and family. If they are negative, get rid of them. I don't care if it's your spouse, because most of the time it is your spouse. You married an idiot. Congratulations.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe you're an idiot at the beginning too.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what's always like so positive. And so After and I, we always talk about you and your wife's relationship. And it's just like so crazy to think about like how you guys have had to grow, adapt, overcome, be open-minded, be able to, you know, take the back seat every now and then for the greater good of the other person, be ready to step to the plate for the greater good of the other person. Like, and y'all have been doing it for fucking 20 years or something. It's just.
You want to know the journey? We were both shitty people, not growing, not moving in life, stale water, mundane every single day.
Yeah.
I started to open up. I started to have dreams. I started to chase those dreams. I started to learn. She said the exact same. And you know what? That was the worst time of my relationship ever, because I was actually learning, opening, and growing, and she wasn't. So you know what happened? We started fighting almost on everything. It's because now I have these different lenses and different frames that I'm seeing the world, like the fucking Matrix, and she has the same lens, the same thing as if she was 16 when I met her.
Yeah.
And so we had to sit down at a coffee shop and we had to make a decision. You're either going to the fucking moon with me, or this is where we split ties.
Yeah.
I'm going to the moon.
Nice.
That was the end of the fucking conversation. And ever since there, yeah, she may not do as much as I do, but she's still rowing the boat.
Yeah. She's not fucking spinning.
She's not fucking spinning us in circles.
You're not backtracking.
And on that mission, she started to find her thing that she kind of loves, because she started jumping into the unknown with me.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to find what you truly love. Because if she would have stayed there, she had no dreams and aspirations. I had no dreams and aspirations. So I opened up. She jumped into unknown. She started to realize, oh man, I love this mom thing. I love encouraging moms to be better moms. You would never have known that if you would have been back here.
Yeah.
So it's just super important that what you said, if you have to have that conversation with your spouse, and if they don't want to move, you got to split ways.
Yeah. I love it. Well,
End it.
let's put a bow in it, guys. Hey, appreciate you hanging out with us. This was a super enlightening conversation for me specifically, because again, I didn't know the definition of ego or humility. And so
we just knew arrogance.
we just knew arrogance.
And
That's pretty
thought
much
they were.
Yeah. We thought arrogance was ego and ego was arrogance. But this was super informative. Do us a big favor again, like, subscribe, share, tag, comment, ask us questions, because you know that we like to answer your questions and bring value to you. So with that being said, what's the quote?
It is, don't work to keep up, work to separate.
Love it.
Later.